You might survive a year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe. But eventually, that car is going to need brand new accumulators. It's just the nature of the beast. So what I want to do is have Josh explain what they are, what they do, and why they're important. And by the way, like I've always said, you have to have a good mechanic. My name is James Cameron. No, not this James Cameron, this James Cameron. I grew up in Coney Island, Brooklyn, New York. I now live in Virginia. But before all of that, I had another passion. I loved Rolls-Royces. Well, a few years ago, I accomplished my dream. I purchased a 1985 Rolls-Royce Silver Spur. And that's where the nightmare began. But it was through trial and error that I discovered that there was a way to actually purchase these cars and maintain them that could save the buyer of future cars like this thousands of dollars. Now that is the sound of power. Let's take a trip. Come on, come along with me. I have now taken that knowledge and will now share it with you. My name is James Cameron, and I want to welcome you to the Rolls-Royce and Bentley University Buyer's Guide. Let's start class. Hello, class. Once again, I'm here with Josh Wicks of Wicks Hot Rods and Kustoms. And today I want to talk about a topic that if you have one of these cars, Rolls-Royce or Bentleys, you know what I'm getting ready to talk about, and that is the accumulators. And it's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when they're going to go bad. So if you were to purchase one, and let's say that car is approximately, just for argument, anywhere from 25 to 30 years of age, you might survive a year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe. But eventually, that car is going to need brand new accumulators. It's just the nature of the beast. So what I want to do is have Josh explain in detail, since he's the mechanic, I'm just the driver, of what they are, what they do, and why they're important. And by the way, like I've always said, you have to have a good mechanic. Like Josh is so good with my car, I'm putting him in my will. But in any event, what I want to do is let Josh explain to you what they are, what they do, and why they're important. So Josh, take it away.
Hey James, so this is the accumulator. So these are mounted in the rear of the car. The car uses hydraulic cylinders in the rear to hold the weight of the car, to act as shock absorbers and everything like that. But for a hydraulic cylinder to act like a shock absorber, you need something to add a spring-like effect to it. So in the hydraulic system, you run fluid here in this side of the inside of this, and then there is a bladder with a nitrogen gas charge on the other side. That allows this to act as like a spring in here to give you some absorption when the car hits a bounce and stuff like that, that it's not this very stiff hitting bounce. It actually allows it to kind of spring up and down a little bit. So when these go bad, you lose either the gas charge on it or the diaphragm in the side goes bad. Now you just have hydraulic cylinders in the back holding up the weight of the car, so it either makes it very rough, or if it loses fluid through here, it now introduces a bunch of air into the system, and then the back kind of droops down and just kind of gets real floaty feeling in the back.
Which is exactly what happened with my car.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly, yeah.
So once we replaced these on the car, you put them in, and then we had to bleed the system. Once you bled the system and everything like that.
Now, okay, you bleed the system. What exactly system are you bleeding?
The hydraulic system. So there are bleeders located in the rear car for those rear hydraulic cylinders. You release the air that's been built up in the system. Anytime you open a hydraulic system, which is a closed loop, meaning there's no outside air or anything going into it, you got to let any air that may have you got in there, out.
Out, exactly, yeah.
So.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
And since you know about this particular type of system, now that I have that put into my car, and we're going to show it in a minute,
Right.
how long do these things last? I mean, assuming that you drive fairly frequently.
In Rolls-Royce, in their manuals, there's probably a specification of timeline of what they're estimated to live. More than likely, most of them, they should last, 10, 15 years. Ideally,
good time.
a good amount of time. Being is you are dealing with a kind of rubber diaphragm in there, and rubber over time in any kind of fluid will degrade over time, and eventually the nitrogen charge in there will eventually find ways out to dissipate and everything like that as well.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this question, since you're the mechanic. What should the mechanic know to be able to put that onto a car? In other words, can a basic mechanic that kind of knows his salt do that function, or it should be someone, say like you, that's extremely versed on the variances of cars and of course these type of cars?
If you can get the repair literature for the vehicle, then it is definitely something that you could tackle or any normal shop could do. It's knowing the location of them. It does require a minor specialty tool. It's called a chain wrench.
Okay.
Because they are round cylinders. There's no way to grab a regular wrench on this,
right,
and they're in kind of a tight location.
So you need a rounded type of wrench.
Yeah, it's basically a chain that grabs a pair of pliers that you can get a hold of this, tighten down, and turn them on and off.
Okay.
And then bleeding the hydraulic system is like bleeding the hydraulic system for brakes.
Okay.
Very simple, similar procedure on that as well.
Okay. How many hours did it take for you to do this?
About 2.5 hours for me.
Okay.
They're a little tight. They're ones in a little tight spot, and then once we get them in, just make sure the system's bled, test drive them, make sure there's no leaks or anything like that.
All right.
All done.
Class, what we're going to do now, we're going to go out to the car, and we're going to physically show you where that part goes in. So let's take a look outside.
All right, so we're talking about where the accumulators are located in the Rolls-Royce Silver Spur. So they're located, there's one behind this panel. You would remove this panel. There's one located here on this side, and then on this side over here, there's one located behind the battery cutoff switch. Now the main thing with this is when you're removing that panel is to disconnect the battery and everything, and then you'll have to remove that battery cutoff switch out of there to gain access to the accumulators. Once you get them back installed, you're going to want to bleed the system before you put everything back, the panel back together. So you will need to kind of hook up the battery disconnect switch again and kind of get it safely secured and not touch anything. If it grounds out, short circuits the battery, not a good day. So that way you can get it running. You can bleed the hydraulic system, check for leaks on the accumulators and everything, and then you can put that panel all back together on it, and then you're good to go.